So the dinghy. So the dinghies, the locals started to come out, at least two of them anyway, came out with their dinghies, and they did a couple of circles around our catamaran. And now, I don't know, maybe I was being a little too cautious, but hey, I've got to go with what and who I am, right? And my first instinct, because I saw them doing this actually, my first instinct was that they were scoping us out, seeing what was tied down, what wasn't, what kind of gear that we had,
Had you had, in all of your nautical miles, had you experienced that before, or is it?
Absolutely.
And how was this
And
different?
again, some of this stuff, it might hit some nerves, most particularly with those people who are actually sailing around on their yachts. But hey, this is just the way it is, And frankly, if you're not conscious of this, if you're not, even slightly thinking about these kinds of things, and I don't really think you're doing yourself, any favors, right? But so I saw them doing this, and in my mind, that's what they were doing. They were checking out the yacht to see what kind of gear that we had on board, so that if they had the opportunity, they could steal it, right? So I actually made a comment, and I said something like, "Oh, let's see what these new people have to steal," like as if I was speaking for what they were thinking, right? And Steve made a derogatory comment towards me. It was something like I was a negative Nancy, except a little stronger, yeah. And that alerted me, because I thought he would have been thinking the same thing that I was thinking, right? So that kind of annoyed me a bit, and that's what really woke me to the fact that they really don't have any of this kind of experience, right? Steve is actually a good sailor, as is Mary, in terms of physically sailing. They're conscientious, they're excellent yachtsmen, but they lack this other kind of experience, and that's when I really sort of realized that when he made that comment to me, right? And that was my way also of, as the most experienced person on the yacht, that was my way of saying, you don't want to stay here, right? So anyway, we ended up not staying there, and we sailed down to the south end of Ile del Sol, and we anchored, and there didn't seem to be any marinas anywhere actually in the Cape Verde Islands that I could see, at least not in the places where we stopped. So we stayed there. I think we did an overnight. We went down to the next island, the next southerly island. I think, what was that, Boa, maybe? Boa? And that was where Dave found this amazing restaurant. We're just wandering through these alleyways, again, in this place that seems to just have been suddenly abandoned, but you could tell by the public square and the architecture that this place used to be, quite a charming and beautiful place. But just like Cologne, Panama, right, with the iron cantilevered balconies and the balustrades, and like a lot of detail went into creating this beautiful place we were in. But it was abandoned, and it had become a bit of in some parts of it looked like a wasteland. But anyway, we were wandering through these alleyways, and Dave found this amazing restaurant, and I'd swear that the chef, and of course I'm a formally trained chef myself, and I could swear that the chef in this restaurant, in this alleyway, he was like a Michelin star chef. It was one of the most spectacular meals I had ever had in my entire life. So we departed that island, and then we headed to the final island, which would be our departure point, which was Santiago, and that's in the southern extremity of the Cape Verde Islands. We ended up anchoring in Praia Bay. And we anchored because on your electronic charts, because for the most part we don't use paper charts anymore, right? On the electric chart, it actually shows where the designated anchorage is, right? So we anchored in that spot about, 150, again, rough guess, 150 meters maybe from shore. I, again, a little leery, and I still had that sort of bad feeling in the island that the other island we had just come from. That same sort of feeling in Praia Bay, the island of Santiago. We were the only ones there. We weren't able to contact anybody. No port authorities, no port officials. And it was really weird because Mary said, as we dropped anchor and we were just sort of looking around in a catamaran. One of the beautiful things about a catamaran is you've got windows everywhere, so everywhere you turn you can basically see out of the vessel. So Mary was sort of turning around, looking out throughout all of the windows, giving herself a sort of a 360 view. And she was saying, wow, this looks kind of nice. Looks like it feels like a safe place. And then I piped up and I said, well, actually, not really. Trying to choose my words carefully, but because again, I didn't want to scare anybody or be accused of being a negative Nancy, but I basically said, well, not really. It's not the greatest place because we are here alone, right? If anything happened, there isn't anyone that we can reach out to, because in a lot of anchorages you usually see other boats there, right? It was late in the season for sure. This was now mid to late January. It was late January, right? So that was one of the reasons why we were alone. And also, I'm not sure even to this day whether word sort of has gotten out about the dangers of Praia Bay, because since the attack that occurred on our yacht, I've seen other people post the same thing on nautical websites where other people have been attacked in the exact same spot where we were, right? So anyway, we dropped the hook, as we say. We were on anchor. And I don't remember whether it was the first night or the second night, but anyhow, here is the attack itself. So it was about 8:30 in the evening, so it was dark. Late January, Praia Bay, Santiago Island, Cape Verde Islands. We were all just sort of chilling in the salon of the catamaran.
All four of you.
All four of us, and you can actually see this on the videos that I've posted. You can actually see the interior of the yacht, and I even point out where I was sitting, etc. I also did a daylight video, so you can see again where we were anchored when the attack occurred. So we had eaten dinner, and I'm not sure. Again, I think we were planning to depart the next morning to head out into the Atlantic. These are the kind of details that are a bit sketchy. I'm not sure if we were planning to depart the next morning to head out into the Atlantic, because of course we were going to cross the Atlantic and deliver the yacht to St. Lucia. But in any case, it was dark. We'd had a fabulous dinner. I was sitting on the inside of the dining room table. Dave was sitting to my right, and Mary was sitting to my left. Steve was down below on his side of the yacht, the owner's suite, so to speak, right? Because the living quarters, like the bedrooms, the cabins, right, are in the pontoons on a catamaran. So he was down on his side, and I was just sitting there. I was just thinking about the ocean crossing. I'd done ocean crossings before, just going over it in my mind, excited about, getting the sextant out again, and excited, frankly, about the voyage being over, because when the voyage was over, that's when my life, would begin, essentially, right? In terms of working full-time on the ocean. So around 8:30, 20 after 8, something like that, I looked up and I saw 3 men come rushing into the salon. They came down, hunched down low, and the leader had a knife that was about, I don't know, this big or so. So
like a machete or something?
Not quite a machete, about half the size of what a typical machete looks like, but it was a big like a Rambo.
Like how wide was the blade?
Like a hunting knife.
A couple of inches?
How wide was the blade? Yeah, I would say a couple of inches, and the length of the blade was probably easy 8 inches, right? So of course now my brain is trying to understand what is happening. It's trying to absorb what's going on, and so many things were going on. Again, because I'm an experienced sailor, I had a whole inventory of possibilities that I was going through in a microsecond, right? And so what my brain was sort of processing was, okay, why are these guys on the yacht, right? Because my brain didn't really sort of focus in on the knives at first, right? So there was a plethora of scenarios that could have been going on without the knife, right? And again, my brain was sort of trying to deny the knife, and my brain was taking me somewhere else. So as an example, when we sailed into the San Blas Islands, for example, off the coast of Panama for the first time, we were taken by surprise. In that case, it was a monohull. We were surprised that the local Indians there, and again, I wish I could remember specifics. Anyway, the local Indians that live and still govern the San Blas Islands, they just come right onto your vessel.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, in the situation with them, there was never any worry about danger, because they're
That's just how they, when you come into their territory, that's their process,
they're
right?
smiling. They're smiling. There are no knives. There are no weapons, and they come on and they put all of these beautiful handcrafts that they make. Little, I don't even know what they're called, but let's just call them sort of like placemats, and others that are more like blankets and things like that. They put them along your lifelines because they want you to buy them, right? And they don't mean any harm, and right. So there was that scenario that I'd experienced before. So my brain was trying to figure out, is that why these guys are here? And this is all happening in the matter of seconds too, right? So. Another thing that happens all the time, and this happened a lot because I've spent a lot of time sailing up and down and stopping in ports all along the Pacific side of Mexico, for example. Well, they'll swim over to their yacht and they'll come up onto your, we call it a sugar scoop, right? The back of your yacht, where there are stairs typically where you can sort of stand on the yacht, and they'll come on board and ask if you've got any work that they can do, that sort of thing, right? Trying to make a little bit of money for themselves. So there's that aspect of it. So there is this kind of contact, and the third aspect, and probably the most important part of this, is a lot of people in different countries, they don't follow the same sort of societal norms that we have, say from being born and growing up in North America, for example, right? We have, for example, this idea of personal space, right? Where, you know, you don't get too close to a person when you're talking to them, especially a person that you don't know, right? There's a very specific idea of personal property, for example.